Welcome, everybody. We are excited for our episode 4 of the Where Do You Run Well podcast. And we have an awesome guest today. I love Ray Turpin so much. So she's my buddy from way back. I mean, it seems like forever, honestly.
7 years.
Actually, seems like longer than that. So we want to tell the story of Ray Turpin. She just completed a race, an ultra marathon, and we're going to definitely get to that. We can't wait to talk about that. And we're also here with her crew and her pacers who are all along for the ride. So if everybody wants to just say hey.
Hey.
Want to say hey, Ray?
Hello.
And I want to give everybody listening today just an idea of who this person is. She doesn't like to talk about herself, so that's why we're all here, because we want to talk about how awesome she is. And it's hard to put into words how special that she is to me personally. And she just happened to walk into our store 7 years ago. We were down on the corner. We had just opened, actually, in 2013, and in walks Ray. And were you by yourself, or were you with
No, Jenny was
your
with
wife? Okay. So you and Jenny came in,
Mm-hmm.
and do you remember what brought you into the store that day?
Actually, I had been looking for shoes, and so was Jenny. And she's like, "Oh, I saw this, this RunWell store." And so we came up, and you guys actually fitted her that day, and not me. And then we were getting ready to go, and you're like, "Oh, we have a new class that just started. That's starting on Saturday." And we're like, "Well, okay." So we came up for the recliner to runner class.
So we totally roped her in, as we try to do that to everybody, really, because it's amazing, and if people are willing to just take that one step, and it has to be the right time. If it's the right time, and Ray and Jenny happened to come in, and we got them locked into our recliner to runner group. So a little bit about Ray. She's quiet and kind. She would do anything for anyone, anything that she has. If you needed it, she would give it to you. She's soldiered through some shit in her life that, I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy, and yet she still smiles, and she loves, and she gives, and so I want everyone to know how honored I am to have her friendship in my life. So
Now you make me emotional.
well, it's true, and anybody who doesn't know you, when we get done with this podcast, I want them to feel like I want to know Ray Turpin. She is amazing. So I want to start with some introductions. And so in the room with us, we've got Ray, we've got her crew, her pacers, and then of course we have Josh, who helps us record the podcast, and he's awesome. So let's go around the room with the crew and pacers, and just tell us how you know Ray.
Okay, my name's Mary Turpin. This is Ray Turpin.
Okay, we're getting the hint.
I know Ray through her wife, Jenny, who was my niece, and that's how I met Ray, which was, oh my God, I don't know how many years ago, the first time I met her. And they...
About 20.
Yeah, at least 20 years. And they are the ones that got me into running. They sent me an email and said, "Oh, I think you'd enjoy this recliner to runner class." And lots of anxiety on my part doing it, but I did. And then I got to experience this journey with her in Kansas, and never in my life did I ever think that I would get to do something like that. But so that's how I got to know Ray. She's my niece.
Mary, how old were you when you went through the recliner to runner program, if you don't mind me asking?
I was 65.
Woohoo!
And kicking butt.
And I just want to add too, because she went through our program, and she was just kind of a natural at it. She just bebopped along and made it look so easy. So that's Mary.
Yep.
She was crew and pacer for Ray.
Yeah.
And then
So
next,
fun.
let's meet Michelle.
Hi, I am Michelle Sparks, and I met Ray 5 years ago through a recliner to runner class, and she actually was my mentor. And without her and all of her energy and positivity, I guarantee I would not be here today.
And Michelle was crew and pacer.
Yes.
Also here is Sarah. Sarah, how did you meet Ray?
Gosh. Well, I think it was when, did we meet before, like when Jonah was just running? Or
Mhm.
was, okay,
Well, it was right around that. Yeah.
right around that. Well, we moved here when my son Jonah was entering 6th grade, and now he's a sophomore in college. And so my nephew had friends that were runners, and Jonah started running, and he'd never done that. So we were looking for a place for him to kind of connect, and so we came to RunWell, and RunWell, everyone at RunWell just kind of opened their arms and took him in as one of their own. And so because he was in 6th grade, I was the mom that tagged along and drove him everywhere. And so so then at one point I did the Recliner to Runner program, and that's when I met Ray. And I know Jen, you said how kind she was, and I was a lot heavier then, and really out of shape and could barely run, and I was at the back of the pack, and Ray was always the one, regardless of the fact that she could run lots faster, always stayed back and ran with me. And so we just kind of developed a friendship then, and Ray and Jenny and I, we just kind of, and they embraced Jonah. And so yeah, that's kind of how I met Ray.
Awesome. And so so Sarah was our crew leader for Ray's ultramarathon. So that's kind of key too, because Sarah was a key person in this whole adventure of, Ray's race. So I'm going to go last, and you already heard how I met Ray. You kind of are getting an idea that Ray was a mentor for a lot of our beginner groups. So after she went through the group, she would come back and help with other groups and help train people just the way she learned. We all started running and walking, building up a little bit more. And Ray was always she's kind of like me in that we're natural born cheerleaders, like for others, like we, and for the underdog, she has got your back. She's an advocate for the underdog or anybody, who's needs help. She's that person. Never wants anybody to come across the finish line by themselves. She would go out and run them all through the chute, and then go back and get the next ones. Like no runner left behind, while Ray is there. So for many years, Ray has been with me on the sidelines of races that I've done, ultramarathons that I've attempted. The Boston Marathon, she came, so she's been my supporter and encourager, and then back in 2017, that's kind of where her story started with her race. And I had 2 failed attempts at 100 miles, and she was going to be on my crew. I was going to try this flat 100 mile with plenty of oxygen. It was in Kansas, and I talked Ray into crewing again for me at that race. Because, just the person that she is, if you need something, she will have it there for you. That's just how if she has to strap a cooler on her back and go 5 miles into some crew station, she has got you. So you want her in your corner all the way. So let's go back to 2017, okay? She's had some gut punches. She's had her world turned upside down, okay? And back in 2017, somehow I roped her into coming with me.
Actually, it was didn't take much to rope me in. 2017 was rough. My wife had passed away in February, and then this amazing opportunity came to actually crew with Jen in March, and it definitely changed my life and really saved me at that point.
Well, and we didn't know how to help you, with what you were going through in losing Jenny. all we knew how to do was to love you and just try to be there for you. And I thought, if you'll come with me, then we'll, try to put some patches on it and to see if we can start some healing for you. So Ray came with me, and it was
That's the craziness that began.
and it was at that race. It was the Prairie Spirit Ultra in Ottawa, Kansas, and it was at that race that I guess the idea popped into your mind that maybe you want to do some shit.
It wasn't a maybe. Well, I mean, when you crew for someone, at least for me, I mean, you're so wrapped up in the excitement of what your runner's doing. You're like, oh, I could do this. I can do this. And so on that day, Jen was 45, and she was out celebrating her birthday for that race because it was her 45th birthday on that Saturday. And every year I hear, oh, I'm going to go run 46 miles because I'm 46 today, or so I'm like, okay. I'm like, for my 50th birthday, I'm running this 50 mile. So that was a promise that I made to myself, and I went out and bought my belt, and I was getting ready. And I talked to people like Tim Schuessler that says, oh, you got three years, you got plenty of time. And then November came around, and I was like, oh shoot, that's next year. And that's when the panic started setting in. And then Jen was in Hawaii visiting the babies and her daughter. And I sent her an email because I didn't want to actually bother you while you were on vacation, that I had signed up for the Ultra, the 50. And she writes back, well, signing up's the easy part.
Yeah, now comes the work. Right, I remember it well. Okay, well, you put some skin in the game.
Yeah.
And two, like the timing, it just doesn't, it's hard to train for an ultra, and with your schedule and stuff, I gotta just be honest, I wasn't sure if it was gonna happen. We're in a pandemic, so we're still like wondering if races are even gonna happen, like, is this something you have to do virtually or whatever? And I don't even know if they had made the decision at that point how the race was gonna play out, if they were gonna have it in person or not, but I'll be damned if Ray didn't put money down. And I didn't know that you had already bought a belt back in 2017 for your buckle that you were going to earn years later. So that's kind of interesting. But too, yeah, that was a pretty epic year because that was the first 100 that I had completed. Mm-hmm. I mean, and I love my crew so much. Like, I had wrote a poem for you guys that was published in Ultra Running Magazine. I mean,
I know.
We did have the best time. So fast forward to this year and the training. So here goes Ray. Now it's time to do the work, because the easy part is registering, putting the money down. Now comes the preparation, a lot to figure out, a lot of twists and turns. So let's talk a little bit about the training and what goes into training for an ultra.
Well, just a lot of help. If
support.
it wasn't for the crew here, Mary willing to meet up with me, and then the backside, Michelle willing to meet up with me to do like split days of long runs, because I couldn't, with my job and stuff, wasn't able to run just straight out. Or, I mean, just everything. Like Sarah doing the Tortured Souls with me. I mean, that's, I had a short time frame to train for this. So every minute, every mile made the difference.
And so you would do like 2-a-day runs?
Yeah, 2 a day, twice a week, at least. So.
And then you had your long time on your feet days.
The 27-mile run was the worst run I've ever done in my life.
Made you question everything.
It made me question whose idea was this.
Yours.
I'm going to interrupt on that, where it gave Ray, she was like, whose idea was this? It inspired confidence, and it truly, after that, we knew she could do it. There was no doubt.
After the 27-mile,
yes.
You mean? Yeah.
Well, the longest I'd ever ran before that was at the Cat Country. Michelle and I ran that half, and then I went back and ran other runners in, and so the furthest I had ran was 18 miles with no training really.
But helping other people,
right?
Because that's just you, like I just ran my longest run ever.
Well, and then of course paying the price because couldn't hardly walk. But and that was so many years ago. So I'm like, okay, the most I've ever run since then is, a half marathon.
Uh-huh.
So I'm like, hey, yeah, 50 would be a good idea to do. Let's do it.
Well, and two, you have to work through certain things because you had some like lower leg calf stuff, and that's plagued you for years.
Yeah.
If I remember right, like that's something
Since
that
we
you were.
started.
Yeah. So that was always looming out there. Like, is that going to crop up? And that does happen too with a lot of runners. Like, oh, I got this one thing nagging, But that actually started coming together because you were working your core, strengthening your hips, doing your stretching, doing, like therapy, like all the things now, and the body responded. And so 27 miles, it hurt, it sucked, it was mentally draining, it was physically, demanding, but that getting yourself through that training run really set you up for what was to come at your race.
Well, I don't really remember why I chose the idea other than the fact that I knew the first 27 miles were going to be myself, to actually go out that day and decide to do that by myself without letting anyone else know that I was going to do it. But to, I guess to assist me, there's so many people that actually came out to rescue me on that run. Because I wouldn't have been able to finish the 27 miles without everybody.
Yeah. You need to draw on your people sometimes, and that's all part of the adventure. And so let's talk about the race day, the trip, the crew, all of that. And so because it was just last weekend. Mm-hmm. That we wanted to do it fresh. I mean, we need to be raw emotion of what we all just witnessed and what we went through. So yeah, it just happened, and everybody survived. You don't really know how it's going to play out, but we're going to tell you. So we're headed over to Kansas, and who was riding with who went there first. So it was a Saturday race.
It was
6:30 a.m. start time.
Yep. Sarah and I rode down on Thursday, but Mary and Michelle rode down together also on Thursday, and they got there before us.
Okay.
And then they went sightseeing.
Might as well.
So like, we're waiting for them. We'll go sightseeing. But I know for me, I was nervous 2 days before we left. But once I got in the truck and started heading down, the nerves went away.
So were you nervous about the mileage? Were you nervous about just whether or not you could finish it?
Yes.
Or do you have everything you need? Or
all of them. I was nervous to the point of nausea. I just felt sick for 2 days before we left. But once we left, it was all good. I was I told Mary, when I came up to that first rest area, that I don't care what I have to do, I'll finish this race. Because there were some questions
that gives me
there.
Goosebumps, okay? Awesome. And so you had all your stuff. You're all packed up. You got drop bags. You've got like a backpack for your crew. So everything, like all the preparation that went into it, you've got it all. It's in your truck, and you guys are headed there on Thursday. So take us through so it's still a pandemic and races are starting to happen. Was there a pasta dinner or no like pre-race meal for the runners? Everybody's kind of on your own for your meal? Okay.
So there was no pasta dinner like the normal. There was no gathering before or after, like around the celebration hall like there normally is. Mm-hmm. We were told to pretty much get in line, stay 6 feet apart, and get our packet and leave. So
alrighty,
yeah, that's pretty much. I was willing to do whatever it took, so I could still run the race in person.
Well, and honestly, at ultra marathons, it's so low key anyway. It's unlike any other race, because even on a normal year, like it is still people just kicking back, relaxing, telling story. It is not like a marathon expo or that kind of thing. So it's a totally different feel already. But then it was even more chill since there's a pandemic. Get your pack, and I've been to some races, where it is like get your packet and it's it's a bib, and that's it, and off you go.
So, once we actually got in line, it wasn't really that rushed. Everyone did have their mask on, and they had a table with 4 or 5 volunteers helping giving out the shirts and in the bibs. So, I mean, they were very personable.
Mm-hmm.
You know, met a couple of people that I'd seen from the hotel and said hi to them, and then we headed back.
Okay. And then did you pick up your packet on Friday then, or on
Friday? Yeah,
on Friday. Okay. So you got your packet.
That was barbecue time.
Right. Yeah, we all met for dinner, so that was fun. You had a little deer in the headlights look going on, but didn't we all? Because, you know, honestly, I've done ultra marathons. I have crewed. I paced before, but the rest of the team is new at it. And so now Ray has crewed before. For me a few times. But she's going to be running, so she can't really direct the crew. So we did have some crew meetings, just kind of how the flow, to take some of the, you know, anxiety from the crew and the pacers, like, how is this supposed to work? How do we know what she needs? And you really don't. You just kind of like take some cues and try to figure it out. But so we did have some crew meetings. Now we're all at dinner together, and it was really just kind of relaxed and fun, and, you know, and excitement for the day. You know, I think at that point we're going with what we got in the car. Like,
I
yeah.
don't know. I think somebody stopped at a grocery store and picked up some pickles.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, because Ray mentioned pickles, and I'm like, you know, sometimes you just want a pickle. You're tired of all the sweet stuff, so we picked up some pickles. But then during the race, someone shows you a pickle, and you're like, I might hurl. So that's a thing too. But we had them in case that's the only thing she could get down. I mean, she likes them, so, and sometimes that can help with cramping and other different things. So yeah, a couple last minute items. Not a problem at all. So that was just kind of fun, relaxing. I felt like we're ready. We're doing this. You know. And so in the morning, you started. Your start time was 6:30.
Mm-hmm.
So we were all going to meet and ride over together 6 a.m. Everybody was pretty much game on, game bases. You know, I felt like you're mentally prepared for the day. I felt like. But what were you feeling?
I was a little tired because we had taken, I think everybody took a nap. So I didn't go to sleep until about 1, and then we got up around 4. And I'm like, so I stumbled down into the elevator. I'm like, coffee. That's all I cared about that time. But I mean, overall, I felt really good. I was a little bit nervous, you know, a little bit of nerves going on, but I felt really pretty good.
Good. Yeah. When I saw you, I thought you looked pretty relaxed. You had choked some food down. That's always an issue, you know, with nervous stomach on race morning. You got some food in you, so that was all good, and we headed to the start. There was not a lot of congregating around the start. It was a few people. I mean, it was really different. It was dark, so we'll just set the scene for everybody. It was dark and
It was chilly.
Kind of quiet. Yep, it was chilly, but I feel like you were dressed perfect. I don't know how.
That's because you told me not to wear pants.
I know I did. I was like, don't do it, girl. You will cook. Don't you put those pants on?
And you're right, because in the first quarter mile, I was taking off my long sleeve shirt.
Yeah.
It was at 54 degrees. It was right after a storm. So it was just the wind was a little chilly, but once you got out in it, it wasn't chilly at all.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's good. And it was going to warm up later in the day. So at the start line, they were starting people in different waves. And so, did you have maybe 15 in your wave? Or, I mean,
I think I had about 20, 25.
Okay.
I think that was 25, I think was the max per wave.
Okay. So you had a pretty decent sized wave. I saw at one point 2 people go take off together, you know. So, and we're all standing there. We did snap a picture at the start, which I love that picture. Oh, it's amazing. I know. Yeah, because it's just like the excitement, like, we have no idea what's going to happen. But we're like, we're going to try. So, and I was holding it together. So here goes the start line, and I'm holding it together, and you even take a few steps to walk. I'm holding it together. As soon as you took off running, I'm like, here comes the waterworks, okay? I got so emotional. There she goes. My little runner that I made like years ago. Look at her go.
Formed into play.
Oh my God. It was So for me, I mean, it was like, no, I don't know. It was just the best to just see you take off on this epic journey that is, you know, Ray is, and I don't even know if we've said this yet, but her dream is 50 miles. Like, she's going 50 miles. She's turning 50 this year, and that was her goal. So those first few steps that you took off running, I was like, all right, here we go. This is happening. So she had to run the first 27 by herself before she could pick up a pacer. We could see you. I mean, we could wave at you, you know, but you weren't allowed any crew and any pacers until you got to the 27-mile mark. So off she goes into the darkness. And tell us where it goes from there, because we were all standing there. And
Well, I think that I got lucky. I came across a couple girls that were doing at what I thought at that time was my pace. So I ran about 4 miles with them, and well, with one of them, because the other one was a 50K. So she had a different turnaround point. But into talking to her, she had a different goal of what her end time was going to be, and it was going to be hours before mine. So I'm like, oh, it's been nice talking to you. And we parted ways about mile 4. But I think that what that did for me was actually get me over that dreaded first mile. It let me get out of my own head. And then since, you know, I mean, when you're doing races and you first start out, you go too fast anyway. So it actually was like this organized speed. But then after that, I realized, okay, that's not my pace. So I was able to, you know, settle in, I think, a lot quicker to a pace that was comfortable for me than if I hadn't ran with the one girl. So that was kind of fun.
yeah.
It was a different transition. Went going from pavement to sidewalk to trail, but definitely better once we got onto the trail. But I mean, it was always okay. I only have this much longer until I see my crew, so it made it manageable. The last 9 miles before the turnaround was probably the hardest part, because you're kind of tired of listening to your music. You're kind of, you know, everyone is. I could say the Ultra was definitely a different experience because everyone was so kind. You have people that had already do the turnaround, and you're on like mile 11, and it's just like they're your best buddy. They're like, you know, you look strong, you got this, you know, keep going. So it was definitely a different experience for me, because I'm like, yeah, I look strong, as I kind of stand up a little straighter,
Yeah.
you know. But the hardest part was definitely those last 9 miles going into Garnett. And but I knew Mary would be waiting for me. And I knew that she'd be energized and really ready to rock with or without me.
That's your Mary. Uh-huh.
So when we took off from there, you know, she kept me going, and if I faltered and needed to stop and walk a little longer, you know, she's like, it's okay, just one foot in front of the next.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so she was definitely a push, like a really raging force that helped me get back on track, because that 9 miles after the turnaround, even though it was the same 9 miles, it was this totally different night and day.
Yeah.
And that really clinched to me, even though I was still going to do this race, that I was making it after I finished my leg with Mary. And then you had Michelle, who was like the soothing source. She's like, okay, it's okay, come on, we got it. And then she was having conversation. At some points I was zoning out, and I'm like, I had no idea what she was even saying. And I was
Just keep talking, girl. Just keep talking.
I had a list in my head of things to just chat. Because she was like, don't expect me to actually respond to anything, but just keep me moving. And I'm like, all right, so I've got a list of things that, you know, people on Facebook had mentioned stuff to me, and things that had just happened during the day. And I was like, all right, well, did you hear about this? No. Okay, well, here's the whole story in detail.
Well, and so let's back up just a little bit, because I forgot to say this earlier, that Ray didn't really tell anybody she was doing this, okay? She didn't post it on Facebook. She wasn't, you know, this was like her own personal thing that she didn't have anything to prove to anybody else. It was her thing. So,
Yes.
and she was also worried about like her phone battery draining and stuff like that. So, you know, she just didn't post about it a lot. And sometimes that adds pressure when you say, hey, I'm doing this. Now people ask you about it, and now people are like following, and if things don't go right, then, you know, you feel bad. So she was just kind of like, I'm just going to do it my way. It's my thing. And she happened to mention to me that she was like, well, I thought about putting something out about St. Jude because she is a St. Jude hero. Imagine that at the platinum level because she's an amazing person. So she's like, but I couldn't think of what words to say, so I just deleted it. And so then my antenna went up and I'm like, I can think of something to say. So once she took off running, I went ahead and just made a post. And if anybody wanted to donate to our friend who's out there killing it today, and she's a St. Jude hero, and I'll be damned if she didn't raise over $1,600 for the kids of St. Jude. So then here comes Michelle, and Michelle can share then some of the things that Ray missed because she's running and people are donating to her fundraiser. They're celebrating her because they didn't know until I posted it that she's even doing some epic shit, in the middle of a pandemic, and she's turning 50 and like she's got this big dream. So, we kind of just put that out there the day you were running, and then Michelle can share some of that stuff with her during the run that Ray didn't know about. And then some other like newsworthy things like random thoughts by Michelle.
I was like, there's no coyotes out here. You see the warning for coyotes, but I have not seen a coyote yet.
The year I did it, there were freaking coyotes. And
really?
And it was scary as hell because, like you can hear them in the distance and how they get each other all hyped up and they're howling and yipping and me and my pacer at the time were like, okay, we need a plan because, they're going to, I smell like death and they're coming, like they're on their way. And so we're trying to think of some plan of how we're going to get away. But so yeah, seriously, there's some coyotes out there. So
good
be
to
lucky
know.
you didn't see them because they're freaky. So you're bebopping along, you're telling her stories. She's in and out of her mind and listening and back into her mind.
We counted bridges because there were several bridges we went over, and I tried to get a couple of pictures with us on a bridge, and my camera skills were just non-existent. We stopped at it was the first time I had seen their unmanned water station, so that was kind of cool. Just jugs of water, and you fill up, and you keep on moving. I'm like, okay.
Pretty uneventful. Yeah. So nobody there. Here's some water. Okay. If you need some water, get some.
Yeah.
If not, move along.
We were like, you think the jugs are still full? And I was like, I don't know, but I don't like warm water. So, just random stuff just to keep moving and chatting and moving.
So, before you were having blister issues before you got to your pacers, weren't you?
Oh, yeah.
So that was earlier in the race because, because I'm trying to think of like what was the way things happened because, so before you even got to your pacers too, so we already had some pains, that we had blisters on the feet because the whole trail is crushed limestone.
It was, I think, 18 miles in at that first stop.
Okay, so you're going to get like these little pieces of dirt and stuff in your shoes. Some people have gaiters, but honestly, like sometimes it can go through the top mesh and get into your shoe that way too. But she was only taking her shoes off at aid stations. So in between, here's these little particles like rubbing in her feet. So she had a real big blister on one arch, I remember, and then under the ball of her foot, like right under the pad where you push into, she had maybe some blisters under some blisters under some other blisters. I don't even know how deep it went, but there. So she's dealing with that too. So like with every footstep, and we drained them. She rubbed some dirt in them, I think. I'm telling her not to. I'm trying to clean them. And then we taped her up real good, and off she went. So that's just an interesting part of the story because at some point, like it's really hard to run when, you just have a lot of pain under the ball of your foot. So Ray at that point was dealing with that too. A little bit of chafing under the arm, which we just went ahead, because it was already red, so we just like kinesio taped that instead of putting some lube on it because that would just create this barrier that she wouldn't even have to worry about anymore. So then she's with Michelle. She's got this going on in her feet. The arm's probably okay at that point.
Because I had put my long sleeve shirt on.
Okay. So yeah, Michelle's taking Ray's mind off of every footstep. Ow, 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 ow. And at that point, you're running some, walking more, because it just hurts more to run with a foot that's just like got tons of blisters all over it. Was it both feet or was it mainly just one?
It was mainly one, and like the ball of the foot was, you know, a little aggravating because you couldn't really push off on it. But with the actual heel area, it actually started coming. It was like at the heel, on the side of the heel, and then it was coming up the foot.
Oh.
So yeah, I mean it's about an inch and a half.
Yeah.
In size up to the foot. So
Yeah, that was a lovely one.
Yeah.
But
it was like a geyser.
But we drained that puppy and we bandaged it, and I kept thinking that bandage is going to come loose and then rub something else. But hey, you know, get back in the game because we're doing this. That's a flesh wound. So.
What was it Trent said? If you're not bleeding,
You're not trying.
you're not trying. Yeah.
Good old Trent. Yeah. So, all right. So you're back with Michelle. Now it was daylight, right, with you two.
Yes.
Okay, and you. So Michelle, you picked her up at what mile mark? What mile was she at when you picked her up?
30,
About 34.
32, 34,
Okay.
Yeah.
mid-30s.
All right.
Yeah.
And you had
Yeah, it was like,
6 miles together.
6 and a half.
6.5.
That 0.5 is very important.
Well, for sure. Totally.
so I guess it was like 36
Yeah.
when I
Okay.
picked her up because I know it was over 35.
Okay. And I think too at this we need to talk about how important the crew leader was at this. I mean, throughout the whole race, but also on these late miles when everybody's tired now. And Sarah had the job of bringing the backpack, filling up the waters, figuring out what she needs. Where is everything? You know. So Sarah, tell us what was going through your mind. Whatever. When it's time for Ray, we know Ray's coming. We should see her soon. And what's going through Sarah's mind?
Well, by profession, I lead organizations, so like I'm really kind of type A and really into organization and planning and all that. So
Perfect crew leader.
Yes.
So for me, from the whole time, and even the days before, was just like making sure everything was ready. So I think I was pretty anxious because I wanted to make sure that everything was ready. And then we had this awesome person that was also on the crew named Jen, who it seemed like.
Oh, go on.
Well, and it was great because it seemed like, as I could always count on you to say, well, what about, maybe we need to do this time. And so we would get that. So I think for every stop, it was just making sure that we had everything we needed for Ray. I know for me personally, I had to really talk myself into like I needed to be really chill and calm because that's not my go-to at times like this. Having a son that was a runner, it was like I was always like in his face and
Eat
very
this.
intense.
Yeah.
And so it was, for me, it was just making sure we had everything, being chill. Having you there was great because, I knew that I would say, Ray, what about this? And she'd be no. And then, Jen, you'd say it in a different way, and she's like, okay, So it was kind of great. I felt like we just all of us.
We did the whole bad cop, good cop on her or something.
Yes.
Well, I'm gonna say the what is it? The Uncrustable.
Yeah.
Peanut butter and jelly were like a good thing.
For the win. Yeah, for sure. Sarah, let's talk too about preparing for the trip, for the race, and you and Ray, because you're similar and yet you're not
Right.
similar. And so you're saying to Ray, hey Ray, what's in your drop bags? Okay. And Ray's like, I have no idea. So how'd the story go?
As you know, I had several conversations with you, Jen, about I'm growing crazy. There's all these things we need to do, and Ray was just really chill.
Her sense of urgency, just you couldn't
Right.
get it on board here.
Right, but it's her race, and yet the part of me that is a leader and who runs organizations knows that you really, even though that isn't her go-to. The reality is you really need to have that so that you're prepared. For her, it's I don't think that's going to happen. And I'm like, but you got to be prepared,
Yeah, and for everybody out there who's maybe never done an ultra marathon, so you have drop bags at different aid stations. And so that's kind of like the whole belts and suspenders thing. If your crew doesn't get there, you need to have a few key items in a drop bag, because your crew could get a flat tire. They could get lost. Somebody could be sick. You just never know. All of a sudden your crew doesn't get there and you show up and, you need nutrition, like some nutrition that you can tolerate. You need a pair of dry socks. So you have to have a certain, some key elements. But here's Ray. That's not going to happen. My crew's going to be there. And if you're prepared, guess what? They are there. But it's those times when, you're not prepared that, damn, you can't finish because you just needed some stuff in a drop bag. So those can be crucial. But here's, I guess, the discussion that Sarah and Ray were having about these drop bags. So
right. Well, and I think that one of the things that I recognized that I think is really super important when people choose to do like an ultra is to make sure that you have people on your crew that, like, one, have different skill sets. I mean, I think that's the cool thing about all of us is that we all brought different pieces to the equation. And so when we needed a certain area that wasn't my skill set, one of the rest of you picked that up because it was yours. I think that it's really important to have a crew that you really trust and I mean, because at one point, like for a month or two, I tried really hard to kind of gently like move Ray to like, oh, we need to do the drop bags, and and then I kind of took a step back. But then finally, we were together doing something. I said, I just got to really share with you that like, I really understand this is your race, and that like these are not your these are not things that are important to you, but they're really important to me. And I even kind of threw you, Jen, at one point under the bus and said, now Jen is telling me we really have to do these things.
Use me, Sarah, it's fine.
But I think having people that you really trust, because, when I shared with Ray, the things that I felt were important, it was like, then we got together and we found this common ground where it was like, we got it all done, and it was done in a way that Ray was comfortable with, and it was also done in a way that I was comfortable with. So I think who you have on your crew is really crucial.
It really is. Yes.
And you got to be able to laugh.
And you have to be able to laugh.
You do. Yeah, so true. When you got blisters under blisters and then some more blisters, you just have to laugh, honestly, because getting angry like that wrecks you. That'll wreck the whole race. Like more often than not, whether or not you finish is your attitude toward what you're doing, so.
Well, I mean, that was a comment that kind of made to Mary, because I had not trained more than the 27 miles, but I had told her, I said, the first 27 miles I trained for, the other 23's heart. And I said that I think this is all attitude, just not never give up.
Well, and you brought that attitude to race day. And for me, it was really, like, it was fun for me to watch, but it was so much more because, like, I saw, like, a smile on your face that I just hadn't seen, in so long.
That's because it's behind the mask.
Okay. Well, I just did. I don't know. I felt like it was just kind of an awakening for you, and it was your day. It was all about you. And so then Michelle's done. She brings Ray to me, and I'm the last pacer. I had the honor of taking her home. I was thrilled, excited, emotional. Okay, she seemed to be holding it together. I was like, I'm just gonna put my mask on over here. Don't mind me, because I was running next to her, like, holy shit, look at her go. Like, she did not let up the whole time. So at this point, like, the feet, okay, she's got some raw meat down there. We don't even know what's going on. We just, like, taped the shit up and gave her some trekking poles, and she hard charged it. I was with her the last 7.2 miles. She thought it was only 6. I'm like, oh,
I thought
sorry.
it was only 5.5.
I'm like, oh, well, I hate to break the bad news to you, but let's do this. Good thing I'm the natural born cheerleader. Go on. Whatever. So off we went, and I just couldn't be more thrilled to be with my friend and to be the one that gets to take you in. And so I just ran next to her, just showering her with my love. She didn't even know it. I had a lump in my throat. I'm like, okay, don't ugly cry. She's like, She's like looking at the beautiful sunset, and I'm over here.
One of the beautiful pictures of Rachel sending the babies.
Oh
and-
yeah, because we had gotten a message from Rachel, so I was texting Rachel like, "Look what Ray's doing," and I'm sending pictures of me and Ray, and so it was, for me. I mean, I was over the moon with being with you.
Well, it's kind of funny because when I first sent you that email, and I think Sarah was the first person I actually asked to be on my crew. And because I've been blessed with Sarah because I was able to help her with her her mentor class, and then we did Route 66, and that was our first 10K, and then we ended up doing hot chocolate. Let's just throw. Okay, you can do 6 miles. Let's just throw out 9,
Right.
just for the swag. So, but I was telling all the girls that I really want to ask Jen to run me in, but I don't know, what she has going on, and I knew you had just had your injury, and I'm like, well, I don't want to hurt her legs. What should I do? They're like, just ask. So I'm like, okay.
I'm like, hells yeah! Yeah. So it was epic. It was amazing. It was more than I ever could imagined. Like I wasn't fully. I knew I'd be emotional because you're my girl, but I wasn't fully prepared for how emotional. And so once we rounded the corner, I took the trekking poles and I'm like, it's all you, girl. You're hitting the chute on your own. You did it, and off you go. And at this point it's dark. Her and I were just bebopping along in the dark. It was just us. There weren't a lot of other people out there because a lot of people were either behind us because they're doing longer or slower, and so it was really just us. The crew had come down to the corner, so we got to see you guys, and we knew we were right there then.
Yeah.
And I'm like, if you can run, now's the time to run. And I took her trekking poles from her, and off she went. And holy shit. I know.
Trent and I are at the finish line, and Trent's telling me, oh, she's going to run. And I'm like, she's not going to run. She's not going to run to the finish line. It's just she's 49 and a half miles in, and there's no way she's running this. And Trent was like, she's going to run it. And I'm like, no, she's not. And he's like, you better get your camera out and start filming. I'm like, I've got plenty of time. She's walking. And we could hear you guys yelling and screaming at the corner. And he was like, turn your video on. She's going to run. I'm like, no, she's not. By God, she started running. Do you know how bad it is to lose a bet?
I know.
So, but I've got video of her coming. I've got her handing the sticks off to you and running in, and it was just so awesome to be there watching her come in.
Yeah, I was losing my shit. I was whistling and screaming. I ran off to the side and
That's Whistler.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you can hear me. Yeah, so.
It was super cool.
That even through the whole thing, every time she came into a station and she crossed, she always smiled and looked happy. And I really was expecting her to be not happy,
Right.
especially when she got to like 27.
Right.
Every time. I'm like, man, this is awesome.
It was her day.
Yeah.
I feel like you just took it by the reins. You grabbed the experience. I mean, just that's fully living your life. When you're just, the good, the bad, whatever comes your way today, we're going to pivot. We're going to figure it out. We're going to put our heads together. And that's what we did. Sometimes we'd try this or try that and, just see what works and then send you back out. And you had the best attitude. I feel like you did. You looked so strong through all of it. Like I didn't see, there was never a moment in time where
we doubted.
Where she's like, I don't know if I can finish. This really hurt. You didn't even let that creep in.
No.
Well, that's because of y'all. Y'all didn't let it creep in.
Oh, no, it's not creeping in. No.
I mean, anytime I doubt it, I look over at Mary's jumping. Okay, we're making it to my turn. Come on.
Oh, that's so awesome. And then you just charged all the way to the end. Like you did not let up. You didn't, you didn't slow down.
No.
You didn't sit a lot. I mean, in the aid stations, you kind of took care of business and then went back on your way. So what did it feel like coming across the finish line, Ray?
I don't even know if I can tell you right now. Even I mean, it was a surreal, and I was excited because I finished in the time frame that I wanted to finish in. So that was even more, more of a boost. But I mean, it's something that you and I had talked about. I kind of felt like the last couple of years of my life, it has kind of been floundering. And I had come to you and I told you that, I feel like that if I could just achieve this race, that could kind of get my life back on track. And that's what I felt like I did. When I was able to finish, I felt like that I could move forward with my life and kind of put some of the parts that were really hard just to the side.
Yeah.
And just, start living again.
Yeah. Yeah, I see that too. I felt it. Even in your training, I felt it. You were fully on board. You were, this is kind of like a springboard to the rest of your life. There is nothing you can't achieve. You set your mind to it. Oh my God, your work ethic, there's nothing you can't achieve. And now to see you setting goals and just going for it, and it's wonderful. I'm so happy for you. It's the best. It made my year, honestly. I love you so much. You're just amazing.
Okay, now you're going to make me emotional again.
Well, so we have mimosas, and we're going to just have a toast to Ray Turpin because... Mary's lush.
Oh, and now it's on the podcast that you're a lush.
We'll give her a ride home, don't worry.
Just have a plain orange juice, we promise.
Right.
I'll just toast with my empty glass.
Yeah. Let's raise our glass to Ray Turpin.
Thank you.
And the crew and the
Experience.
Pacers, and you're a warrior, girl.
Thank you, guys.
Cheers.
That's right.
So as we wrap this up with Ray Turpin, I do want to talk a little bit about the fact that she is an artist and she makes handmade jewelry. She's got her own business. She's a small business owner. She's local here in the Madison County area. And you're going to be able to see a lot of her pieces, but I'm going to talk about my favorite one because I had this note that my daughter had written, "I love you, Mom." And she pushed it. It was on a little Post-it note. She pushed it under the door one time when I was working from home. And I had it taped to my computer because that was kind of my why I work so hard, why I get up every day and do my best, was this little "I love you, Mom," So I taped it to my computer. Fast forward years later, it's getting frayed, it's falling apart. Ray was able to take that note in my daughter's handwriting and put it on a charm necklace for me. So, and to me, that is priceless. So she does rings, necklaces. She does some shoe tags. Tell us about your business.
I do pretty much anything you can think of. I mean, I do bracelets. I do multi-metals. So one of the things I just did for myself, like we were just discussing, that when I actually finished the race there, they didn't have the buckles in. So I was kind of pouting a little bit, and I went home and I made myself a commemorative bib necklace. So it's actually my number and my mileage and the race that I did. And then, of course, the buckle came the next day, so I took pictures of them together.
Yeah, so she made herself a little necklace, and it looks like her race bib with her number, and it's got her time, and that's all stuff that she can do. She does engraving, hand stamped jewelry.
Hand stamping, laser engraving, hand cutting.
Yeah, all of it. So please check out her website. The name of her business is Simple Expressions.
Yes.
And why don't you spell it for everybody, because it's different. I mean, simple, but then the way you spell expressions.
Right. It's SIMPLEXPRESSIONS.
Okay, and you have a Facebook page, and she has a website. So please check her out. She has a ton of running-related jewelry, but she can really make anything that you can think of if you want, something from a loved one, a signature. I mean, she does it all. So check her out, and please support her small business. Thanks for listening.
Thank you.
See you next time. For information on training programs through RunWell Coaching, please visit runwellcoaching.info. And for all other information on events, visit our website at the store, runedwardsville.com. Thanks so much for listening. See you next time.